Welcome to Headphone News, International Edition for Thursday, December 12, 2024.
Yellen discusses South Korean political crisis. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen recently met virtually with South Korean Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok on December 11, 2024. They talked about the unrest in South Korea following President Yoon Suk-yeol's attempt to impose martial law. Yellen stressed the importance of communication between the U.S. and South Korea, highlighting their close relationship based on shared democratic values. The ongoing instability in South Korea could lead to serious financial consequences, impacting foreign investment and public confidence in the government. Maintaining stability in this key ally in East Asia is vital for regional safety and economic interests.
BC Port Union Dispute and Judicial Review. The International Longshore and Warehouse Union Local 514, which represents about 700 members in British Columbia, Canada, has requested a court review of a government order that requires workers to return to their jobs. This order, issued by Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon on November 12, 2024, followed a lockout of port supervisors that started on November 4 and ended on November 14, 2024. The union argues that this order violates workers' rights to negotiate and go on strike. This ongoing conflict highlights important issues in labor relations within the maritime industry, which is crucial for trade in British Columbia. The outcome of this court review could set significant precedents for future labor negotiations and affect workers' rights across Canada. Understanding the implications of this dispute is vital, as disruptions in port operations can lead to shipping delays and higher costs for businesses that rely on maritime trade.
Bougainville's path to independence. Bougainville, an autonomous region in Papua New Guinea, is working toward political independence by achieving financial self-sufficiency. Prime Minister James Marape emphasizes that Bougainville needs to cover at least 50% of its budget to reach this goal. President Ismail Tarawama is actively seeking international investment to reopen the Panguna copper mine, which could generate $36 billion over the next 20 years. Currently, Bougainville only brings in 7% of its internal revenue, which isn't enough for sustainable growth. The region has a turbulent history, including a civil war that claimed around 20,000 lives due to disputes over resource management. Reopening the mine could create jobs and stimulate the economy, but it also raises important environmental concerns. Recent developments indicate a commitment to responsible resource management and a focus on community welfare. Bougainville's journey toward independence highlights the delicate balance between economic growth and social responsibility.
ADB lowers growth forecast for developing Asia. The Asian Development Bank, or ADB, has reduced its growth predictions for developing Asia. They now expect a growth rate of 4.9% for this year and 4.8% for next year, down from previous estimates of 5.0% and 4.9%. This adjustment reflects weaker economic performance in some countries and concerns about consumer spending. For China, growth forecasts remain steady at 4.8% for 2024 and 4.5% for 2025. However, projections for India have been lowered to 6.5% for 2024, down from 7.0%. Inflation rates are also expected to be 2.7% for 2024 and 2.6% for 2025, compared to earlier estimates of 2.8% and 2.9%. The potential impact of U.S. trade policies under President Donald Trump poses risks to economic stability in the region. Developing Asia includes 46 countries, excluding Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. Investors and policymakers should keep a close eye on these developments, as changes in U.S. trade policy could lead to higher tariffs and affect economic growth. Understanding these forecasts is crucial for anticipating shifts in investment strategies and consumer behavior across the region.
Indian rupee faces economic challenges. The Indian rupee, or INR, is struggling due to the ongoing strength of the US dollar, known as USD, and negative market sentiment. It opened at about 84 Indian rupees and 88 paise against the USD, getting close to its all-time low of 84.8575 Indian rupees. Recently, Sanjay Malhotra was appointed as the new governor of the Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, which has raised worries about potential interest rate cuts in the country. Economic metrics show that foreign investors bought around $70 million worth of Indian shares and about $48 million in Indian bonds on December 9. The dollar index, which measures the strength of the USD, currently stands at 106.3. Analysts expect core consumer prices to rise by 0.3% month-on-month in November. While the RBI's actions may help stabilize the rupee, challenges continue due to global economic pressures. A weakening rupee could lead to higher import costs, increased inflation, and cautious foreign investment, all of which could impact the overall economy.
OpenAI CFO on AI's future with Trump and Musk. At the Reuters Next conference in New York City, Sarah Frier, the chief financial officer of OpenAI, shared her confidence in President-elect Donald Trump as a potential leader for the future of artificial intelligence. She highlighted the remarkable growth of ChatGPT, which has jumped to 300 million weekly active users, up from 200 million just a few months ago. This increase shows the rising demand for AI technologies. Frier also discussed Elon Musk's role, expressing her trust in him to prioritize national interests, despite previous tensions. Musk, a co-founder of OpenAI, now heads xAI, a competing company. The conversation emphasized the vital need for effective management in AI development, especially as Trump prepares to take office. As AI continues to evolve, these advancements raise important questions about regulation, job markets, and ethical issues. The influence of political leaders and key figures like Musk will play a crucial role in shaping the future of technology.
India's trade challenges with China and the U.S. India is currently facing increased trade challenges due to a rise in imports of Chinese steel. From April to October, these imports grew by 10%, reaching a total of $65.9 billion. This situation has resulted in a trade deficit with China of $57.8 billion, which is about 69.4 billion Indian rupees. The Indian steel industry, the second largest globally, reported a record high of 1.7 million metric tons of Chinese steel imports, reflecting a 35.5% increase compared to the previous year. In response to these developments, the U.S. has implemented a 25% tariff on Chinese steel. This has impacted U.S. shipments while simultaneously boosting Chinese exports to India. Recently, Sanjay Malhotra was appointed as the new governor of the Reserve Bank of India, a change that could influence monetary policy during these trade challenges. The possibility of a U.S.-China trade war raises concerns across various sectors in India, including machinery and electronics. As India navigates its relationships with both the U.S. and China, the economic landscape remains uncertain.
Kawasaki Heavy suspends hydrogen project plans. Kawasaki Heavy Industries, a leading Japanese company, has decided to stop its plans to use hydrogen sourced from Australian brown coal. This change comes after facing difficulties in obtaining hydrogen from Australia and delays in construction approvals. Instead, the company will focus on producing hydrogen in Japan, using smaller carriers that can hold 40,000 cubic meters, down from the original plan of 160,000 cubic meters. The Japanese government is backing this effort with 220 billion Japanese yen, which is about $1.45 billion, to help Japan achieve its goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. However, suspending this project could slow Japan's transition to cleaner energy and impact international partnerships in the hydrogen market. Meanwhile, Australia, aiming to be a major hydrogen exporter, may need to seek new partnerships to remain competitive in the global energy landscape.
Khalil Rahman Haqqani killed in Kabul blast. Khalil Rahman Haqqani, the acting minister for refugees in Afghanistan, was killed in a blast in Kabul on December 11, 2024. His nephew, Anas Haqqani, confirmed the news. Khalil Haqqani was a senior leader in the Taliban's temporary government, which took power after foreign forces withdrew in 2021. Since then, the Taliban has faced ongoing violence and unrest, with various groups involved in attacks. This blast highlights the unstable security situation in Afghanistan, affecting not just government officials but also ordinary citizens. The death of such a high-ranking official could lead to more power struggles within the Taliban, making governance and humanitarian efforts even more challenging. The current political situation remains tense, with serious implications for Afghan refugees and international relations. Understanding these dynamics is essential to grasping the challenges Afghanistan faces today.
Romania's new coalition government. Romania's pro-European parties have come together to form a coalition government after the parliamentary elections on December 1, 2024. This coalition includes the ruling Social Democrats, the center-right Liberals, the opposition Save Romania Union, and the ethnic Hungarian Party. Their mission is to challenge the rise of ultranationalist parties that gained significant support during the elections. The current legislative term will end on December 21, 2024, and a rerun of the annulled presidential election is expected in early 2025. Romania is facing a budget deficit of 8%, which means the government is spending much more than it earns. This situation is prompting the new government to consider tax increases and reforms to stabilize the economy. Outgoing President Klaus Iohannis will nominate a new prime minister, which will influence the coalition's direction. These political developments are crucial for Romania's stability within the European Union and NATO, especially with rising concerns about ultranationalism and foreign influence.
Political crisis in South Korea amid protests. South Korea is currently experiencing significant unrest as large demonstrations unfold against President Yoon Suk-yeol. Many citizens are demanding change after his controversial announcement of martial law, aimed at addressing lawmakers accused of supporting North Korea. This move has sparked widespread criticism. Located on the southern part of the Korean peninsula, South Korea is the 10th largest economy in the world. President Yoon, who is 63 years old, faces strong opposition, highlighted by a recent failed attempt to remove him from office. A new vote on this issue is scheduled for December 14, 2024. North Korea's state media has commented on the situation, emphasizing the ongoing tensions between the two countries. This crisis raises serious concerns about individual rights and governance in South Korea, which could impact the economy and international relations. Political unrest often leads to financial instability, affecting public confidence and investment.
Bank of Canada cuts rates amid economic uncertainty. The Bank of Canada, based in Ottawa, has lowered its main interest rate by 50 basis points to 3.25% as of December 11, 2024. This move aims to support economic growth as worries rise about possible tariffs from the incoming U.S. President-elect, Donald Trump. Economists are forecasting a 70% chance of further rate cuts in January. The Canadian economy grew by only 1% in the third quarter, which was below expectations, while inflation remains steady at the target rate of 2%. The Canadian dollar, often called the loonie, is trading at 1.414 Canadian dollars to one United States dollar, meaning that 10,000 Canadian dollars is roughly 7,060 United States dollars. This rate cut signals a shift towards a more cautious approach to monetary policy, as the Bank of Canada evaluates the current economic situation and the potential impact of trade barriers. Lowering rates could reduce borrowing costs for consumers and businesses, encouraging spending and investment. However, the threat of tariffs might raise costs for Canadian exporters, affecting their ability to compete in the U.S. market.
Poland calls for increased NATO naval presence in the Baltic Sea. Poland's Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz is calling on NATO to boost the deployment of member navies in the Baltic Sea due to rising concerns about Russia. He highlights the need for greater support from allies at the upcoming NATO summit in The Hague, Netherlands, scheduled for next June. Poland emphasizes the importance of increasing defense spending, suggesting that the European Union should allocate at least €100 billion, or about 106 billion United States dollars, for defense. This represents a major increase from the current spending of €1.5 billion, or roughly 1.59 billion United States dollars. The push for a stronger naval presence comes after incidents of suspected sabotage involving undersea fiber optic cables last November. This situation reflects a growing urgency among European leaders to enhance defenses amid fears of potential Russian aggression, particularly towards EU countries. The implications of this call to action could lead to heightened military readiness in the region and a rising demand for defense equipment, affecting both national and international security.
UK public sector pay proposal amid inflation concerns. The UK government has suggested a wage increase of 2.8% for public sector workers, including teachers and NHS staff. This increase is dependent on improvements in productivity. However, unions have reacted strongly, warning that they may take action if pay continues to fall behind. With inflation expected to average 2.6% next year, there are concerns that this wage hike won't keep pace with rising living costs. The government is also dealing with a deficit of £22 billion from the previous administration, complicating funding for public services. Groups that review public sector pay will consider these recommendations, with a final decision anticipated next year. This situation highlights the ongoing struggle between managing finances responsibly and ensuring fair pay for public sector workers.
Argentina's inflation decline sparks hope for recovery. Argentina's inflation rate is showing signs of improvement, with an expected rate of 2.8% for November 2024, down from 25% at the end of last year. However, the country still faces a tough economic situation, as the inflation rate over the past year approaches 200%, and poverty affects half of the population. President Javier Milei has cut state spending to stabilize the economy, successfully lowering inflation from a peak of nearly 300% in April 2023. Many Argentines, including textile sellers like Aram Boyachian, express guarded hope about recovery, noting better buying power among middle and working-class citizens. Despite these positive signs, the Argentine peso remains under pressure, with 10,000 Argentine pesos converting to about 27 United States dollars. This situation highlights the ongoing struggle between economic policy and public welfare, as the government works to balance recovery with the needs of its citizens.
Germany's political uncertainty. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has requested a vote of confidence from Parliament, scheduled for December 16, 2024. This request follows the collapse of his coalition government, which included the Social Democrats, Greens, and Free Democrats. If he loses the vote, it could lead to early federal elections on February 23, 2025. Recent polls indicate that nearly one-third of voters support the opposition Conservatives, while the far-right Alternative for Germany party has 18%. The Social Democrats are at 17%, and the Greens have 13%. The political uncertainty in Germany, the largest economy in Europe, poses risks to economic policies and could impact both domestic relations and the European Union. Understanding these developments is important, as they may influence voter feelings and overall economic stability in the region.
Wells Fargo's progress on compliance issues. Wells Fargo CEO Charlie Scharf has expressed growing confidence in the bank's ability to tackle regulatory challenges related to a fraudulent accounts controversy. At the Goldman Sachs Financial Services Conference in New York, Scharf outlined the bank's efforts to enhance risk management and meet legal requirements. Wells Fargo is close to lifting a $1.95 trillion financial limit that was imposed in 2018, which has restricted its ability to accept more deposits and expand its trading activities. This limit was a direct result of the compliance issues tied to the scandal. With the new administration of President-elect Donald Trump expected to introduce measures to support the U.S. economy, there may be impacts on the banking sector. The ongoing efforts to improve compliance and rebuild trust will be essential for Wells Fargo's future growth and competitive position in the financial market.
TikTok challenges Canadian shutdown order. TikTok is pushing back against a Canadian government order that requires it to halt its operations in Canada. The company claims this decision could result in hundreds of job losses and about 250,000 cancelled contracts with Canadian advertising clients. On December 5, 2024, TikTok filed documents in federal court in Vancouver, arguing that the government's order lacks proper reasoning and could harm the Canadian economy. This shutdown order was issued in November 2024 after a government investigation into security risks associated with TikTok, which is owned by the Chinese company ByteDance. TikTok emphasizes its role in supporting over 14 million monthly users in Canada, including businesses and digital creators. The legal challenge aims to pause the shutdown while TikTok presents its case. This situation raises ongoing concerns about data security and foreign investments in Canada. Understanding the implications of this case is important for users, businesses, and decision-makers, as it may set a significant precedent for how foreign companies operate in the country.
MicroStrategy's rise fueled by Bitcoin investments. MicroStrategy, a software company based in the United States, has seen its stock price soar nearly 500% this year. This remarkable growth positions MicroStrategy as a strong contender for the Nasdaq 100 index. The company's market value has reached $90 billion, largely thanks to significant investments in Bitcoin, which recently hit a price of $100,000. MicroStrategy holds around $42 billion in Bitcoin, owning a total of 400,000 Bitcoins, which makes up about 2% of the entire Bitcoin supply. This surge in stock price follows Donald Trump's election, with expectations for a crypto-friendly administration. An announcement about the Nasdaq 100 reshuffle is expected soon. If MicroStrategy is included, it could attract more investment firms. However, the company did report a net loss of $340 million last quarter, raising questions about its business model. Investors should keep in mind the fluctuations in cryptocurrency investments and the potential effects of regulations as traditional finance increasingly intersects with digital assets.
Trudeau highlights women's rights in Ottawa. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke in Ottawa, Canada, on December 10, 2024, about the importance of women's rights. He pointed out that the recent defeat of U.S. presidential candidate Kamala Harris is a setback for progress in this area. Trudeau highlighted the ongoing challenges women face in politics and stressed the need for unity to improve gender representation. His comments were made at an event organized by the Equal Voice Foundation, which works to boost female representation in Canadian politics. This discussion comes at a time when Canada is facing a possible 25% increase in tariffs from incoming U.S. President Donald Trump, which could significantly impact Canadian businesses and consumers. The political atmosphere is tense, with leaders like Conservative MP Melissa Lantsman and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh also calling for changes in political representation. These developments have implications beyond politics, affecting economic ties between Canada and the United States, and highlighting the ongoing need for advocacy for women's rights.
GM shuts down cruise robotaxi business. General Motors has decided to close its cruise robotaxi business due to major challenges in the autonomous vehicle industry. The company invested nearly $10 billion USD into Cruise but faced significant financial losses and legal barriers. A serious incident in 2023 in San Francisco, California, where a self-driving vehicle dragged a pedestrian for 20 feet, raised safety concerns and prompted investigations. Despite hopes for recovery, Cruise struggled to regain public confidence and resumed operations only under supervision in Phoenix, Arizona. This decision raises questions about the practicality of the economics surrounding autonomous vehicles, especially as competitors like Waymo, Tesla, and Amazon's Zoox continue to operate in this changing market. While Cruise had estimated potential annual revenue of $50 billion USD, the reality of operating in this sector has proven quite challenging. This development may have significant consequences for investors and stakeholders in the autonomous vehicle space, highlighting the need for a review of strategies in light of ongoing difficulties.
Italy's new web tax on big tech. Italy is planning to launch a web tax aimed at large technology companies, while small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, will be exempt. This tax will be set at 3% and will apply to digital companies that have annual sales exceeding €750 million, which is about $788 million, as long as they generate at least €5.5 million, or roughly $5.8 million, in revenue within Italy. Policymakers are considering keeping the revenue threshold of €750 million to prevent potential conflicts with the United States, which has criticized this tax as unfair to American companies like Meta Platforms, Google, and Amazon. The Italian government estimates that around €400 million, or about $420 million, will be needed for measures to lower corporate tax for businesses that hire and invest under certain conditions. Over the next 3 years, Italy expects to raise more than €5 billion, or about $5.3 billion, from the financial sector through these initiatives. This tax policy highlights ongoing global discussions about digital taxation and its effects on international relations, especially between Italy and the United States.
Exxon Mobil's increased investment plans. Exxon Mobil is set to significantly boost its annual project spending, planning to invest between $28 billion and $33 billion from 2026 to 2030. This investment aims to increase oil and gas production by 18%. The company targets raising output in the Permian Basin in Texas to 2.3 million barrels per day and 1.3 million barrels per day from its operations in Guyana, a country in South America. Overall, production is expected to reach 5.4 million barrels per day by 2030, up from the current level of 4.58 million barrels per day. CEO Darren Woods highlighted that this spending increase is expected to generate returns exceeding 30% over the investment's lifespan. This plan reflects ExxonMobil's strategy to enhance shareholder returns while navigating the global energy sector, which is increasingly focused on being environmentally friendly. The effects of this strategy could impact energy markets, local economies, and environmental regulations, especially in regions like Guyana and Texas.
UniCredit's bid for Banco BPM. UniCredit, a leading bank in Italy, is taking a bold step to acquire Banco BPM with a bid of €10 billion, which is about $10.6 billion United States dollars. This move comes in response to market competition, especially after Banco BPM announced a €1.6 billion bid for Anima Holding, a fund manager. The goal of this acquisition is to strengthen UniCredit's position in Italy's banking sector, particularly in the wealthy Lombardy region. CEO Andrea Orcel faces some challenges, as this bid includes a 15% premium over Banco BPM's share price before the announcement. The banking landscape in Italy is currently undergoing significant changes, with various mergers and acquisitions reshaping the market. The outcome of this bid could greatly affect shareholders and the competitive dynamics in the sector. Additionally, government policies may play a role in the merger process, adding another layer of complexity. Investors and consumers should keep a close eye on these developments, as they could impact banking services and market competition in Italy. That is all the news for today. Thank you for listening to today's Headphone News. News summary brought to you by AI.